Oh, hello.
I can't.
What's his question?
I would love to know his or her name.
A9.
Okay, focus on the animal dog. Oh, you can all see? Okay, good. Hi. I get distracted by adorable animals, I can't help it. You know, I know we're here to talk about Doctor Who, but your character, Doctor Who, the Ninth Doctor, has a connection to Charles Dickens, and that was one of his favorite authors. And you're in a show inspired by a story by Charles Dickens' Dodger. So tell us about playing Fagin in this adaptation.
Yeah, last year BBC and NBC commissioned us to make an origin story for the character, the Artful Dodger from Charles Dickens' Oliver. And I played Fagin. And we're doing the second series at the moment, and I was this time yesterday, I was in Bristol in the UK.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Playing Fagin. I wrapped the job at 6 p.m. UK time, drove to London, got home at 10 p.m, slept for a few hours, and then got on the plane and arrived here about 2 hours ago.
Seriously, that's impressive. We're all so glad you're here. You know, I want to talk about, of course, you got to return as a Ninth Doctor thanks to Big Finish Audio, which tells such wonderful stories.
Yeah.
And I want to hear about coming back and what it was like to portray the role in an audio format versus, you know, on the screen.
Well, it's the quality of the writing. A lot of the adventures I've done for Big Finish, and I'm about to start a new batch in September. Yeah. We're going to start recording through September, and then we're going to do some more in December. It's the quality of the writing which makes it sing. I'm convinced that a number of the writers they're using on Big Finish could easily write for the television show. And it was, I mean, it was interesting going back because I was kind of quite calm, but people around me were very excited. But I'm very focused on the job. And sadly, when I went back, it was the pandemic. So I had to do it in isolation, and a lot of the actors had to dial in. So that made it a little bit lonely. The problem I gave the recording engineers is because I'm quite a physical actor, I was acting the whole thing out, but of course you're supposed to just do it for the microphone. So we had to keep going again because I was kicking the mic stand or knocking the chair over. But I loved it, and I found that it came very easily, you know. I just picked up where I left off, really.
I love that. I was going to say, because your doctor is, I mean, all the doctors tend to be characters of action, but I feel like the Ninth Doctor especially, there's a lot of running, a lot of activity, and you can't do that in an audio booth.
No, you can't.
Not without, like you said, stressing out the poor engineers.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful, because I know, you know, when they released the trailer for your first adventure and hearing your voice again as the Doctor, I got goosebumps, and I'm sure it was not just me. So you said it was very, yes, exactly. But it felt good, it felt natural to step back into that.
Yeah, it felt very natural. But, you know, credit to the writers. Obviously they'd had, I don't know, was it 2005 that I was broadcast? So they'd had 17 years to kind of absorb and think about that Doctor's voice, and they gave me, you know, they gave me the bullets. I just fire them. I don't like that metaphor, actually. I'd like to change it. Sorry about that metaphor.
I don't like thinking that it's
No.
It's been 17 years.
Yes. No.
I don't want to do that math in my head. I don't want to go back that far. So since you did start doing this recording in the pandemic, since then, have you been able to record any of your adventures in person with your castmates?
Yes, yeah. We did a batch just as we came out of the UK's second lockdown. But there was still, a lot of paranoia, understandably. There was still a lot of masking. And the Big Finish audio recordings are traditionally big celebrations, there's a visit to the pub afterwards, and none of that's happening, but I'm going to make sure it happens in September. Back to the pub.
Always. That's just a good life motto right there. And I'm sure you've been asked this countless times, but your answer may have changed. We all grow as people, right? So if you could take the TARDIS any place in time, or to meet someone, who, where, what?
I always get very emotional when I'm asked this question, because always for me, I want to go back to the Salford in Lancashire, the UK, of say 1929, which was the year that my dad was born, and 1932. And that's what I loved about the episode when Rose, what was it called? When Rose meets her father.
Father's Day.
Yeah. I found that so emotional. And that's, I would love to see my mum and dad as children. And I'd love to see the environment, the social and cultural influences that made them, that in turn made me. My mum was 90 this year. We had her birthday 2 weeks ago, 9th of August, and celebrated it. So I would definitely go back to Salford and see them as children.
I love that, and I like seeing, so much of who we are is, right, our circumstances, where we grow up, what's going on in the world at the time, so.
The other place I would love, there's this huge debate about who wrote Shakespeare's plays. Was it Shakespeare? Was it some other? I'd love to go back to that period and find out.
I know, like an investigation.
I think that would be, and to see the Elizabethan and the Renaissance and all that would be special.
That would be incredible. And could you imagine a podcast about that? I think that I would listen.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask one more question, and then it's up to y'all. And I want you, I think, Atomic Blonde already pointed out there are microphones in each aisle, one question each. And I want to say, let's, keep it positive. We know why Chris left Doctor Who. We know the 60th is coming up. So let's not focus on those things. Let's focus on his incredible time as the Doctor. And starting with, when you were approached to be the Ninth Doctor and bring back this iconic franchise for the modern era, how did that feel?
Well, I approached them. I just worked with Russell T Davies on a show called Second Coming. And, he was and is one of our most brilliant writers. And I was really fascinated as to why Russell, who with Queer as Folk and Second Coming had dealt, albeit with a light touch, with some very heavyweight subjects. And I was intrigued as to why he would want to do Doctor Who. So I emailed him and said, I'd like an audition. So I approached them, and it was so left field because I was seen as the most miserable man in Britain. All the TV I'd done up until that point was very serious, was very socially conscious and social issue, very political, and I wasn't seen. I wasn't seen as a light actor. But that's one of the reasons I wanted to do it. I felt like I'd acted for adults for a long time, and I wanted I wanted to try out comedy, and I wanted to try and appeal to a younger audience. And I have to say, you know, I was very professional about it. It was like being the still center of a hurricane, because there was so much craziness, and I was just concentrating on learning my lines and chasing pigs dressed as spacemen down corridors.
Well, that I think it emphasizes that Doctor Who does have some whimsy.
Yeah.
A lot of whimsy, so
Yeah.
I can see you would have to convince them. You're like, no, I can do whimsy.
Yeah, I think they made the audition with a fake hand. And I think they were pretty terrified, because I was not known for wrestling with a fake hand. You know, I just finished playing Hamlet. I was really, you know, serious. And I had to do all this, which was great for me, because, you know, I'm cheap. I'm cheap as chips.
That's amazing. You're like, now you put that on your resume. Wrestling with fake hands, among other things. Okay, let's start with questions. I'm going to start on this side. Please tell us your name and your question.
Hi, I'm Tegan from Linwood, and yes, I am named after the companion. As is my younger sister, Pernissa. I just wanted to ask you, from Classic who is your doctor and your companion?
Oh, my companion's easy. It's always going to be Rose. People talk about me bringing it back, but it was me and Billy that brought it back. The Ninth Doctor only works with Rose. My favourite Doctor really is Ncuti, the next guy. The first Doctor I ever saw and remember, and I do think your first Doctor is always your Doctor. I remember a black and white image of, and now the jet lags just hit me. Patrick Troughton. As a child, I remember this black and white image, and somebody said that's Doctor Who. So he's when somebody says that phrase, I think of him.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And now we'll jump over here. Hi, what's your name and question?
Well, first say hello, sweetie.
Hello. Hello, honey pie.
My name's Anna and I'm from Seattle. And my question is, if you could travel with any of the other companions from the new who would it be?
I'm not travelling with anybody but Rose. I'd love to give you an answer, but I'm like, that's it.
Laser focused.
He doesn't work. You know, he breaks down if Rose isn't around.
It's true, it's really such a balance.
We like a man who's faithful, don't we?
We do. Thank you so much for your question. Hi, over here, your name and your question.
Hi,
please.
I'm Aiden. You're the first modern Doctor, the first Doctor for my generation, for a lot of us. And what were you expecting going into that? What were you expecting? Like, it became this massive thing. I don't know if you knew it was going to be, and what was your reaction when you realized how huge it became?
I'd kind of left the stage by the time it became huge. You know, I've looked on as this thing has grown and grown and grown. Probably the most beautiful thing that's happened is Jodie Whittaker becoming the Doctor, and what that did to half the planet who are female. That for me, coming from a generation who was very political and was very about gender equality, to be a small part of that. And that great YouTube clip when a UK mother filmed her daughter, who was just excited about the announcement of the new Doctor. But when it was a girl, the young girl goes, "It's a girl, it's a girl." That was just, and now with Ncuti, its sexuality and his colour and all that. Because to me, one of the reasons I wanted to do Doctor Who was I felt, in a very light way, it always addressed equality. The Doctor is an alien, you know. He is not of this place, but he accepts everybody. So that, to be part of that is wonderful. What I didn't expect, and it's happening to me all the time now, is that when I'm out and about, I'm meeting people in their early 20s. And you know, they're out on the street, they're having a beer, they're sophisticated now and they're tough now and this, that and the other, but they immediately become children. And you know, I'm walking out and you'll see a group of guys and they're being tough or whatever, but then one of them will see me and they're like, I had a model of you when I was a kid. And I think really, in a way, the impact of what I was part of is only hitting me now that my generation, some of you, have grown up. And now it's much more emotional for me than it was at the time. To see that people remember this, and that I'm a part of people's childhood. And I have children now. I have Albert, who's 10, and Esme, who's going to be 9. And they've allowed me to witness their childhood, and then I'm having these experiences. So I think what happens is you appreciate it more and more as you get older, and I'm very old.
Thank you so much for your question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now we'll go back over here. Hi, what's your name and question?
Hi, I'm Jana. I'm from Seattle.
Hi.
I have a comment and a question. My comment is, you talk about Doctor Who being a very light character, but as I watched your season, what I saw was a character who was dealing with PTSD and overcoming grief. So that was a pretty dramatic role, even if it was light, and I adored that. You will be my doctor forever. My question isn't about Doctor Who, though. My question is, what was it like playing John Lennon, and how did you prepare for the role?
Oh, wow.
Big Beatles fan here, so I had to ask.
There's my touchstone. There's an interview that John gave with Jan Wenner of the Rolling Stones, where he's very off the record, and I listened to that time and time and time again to try and get his rhythms, you know, and to try and understand the way he spoke. There's so much out there, you know. I just watched everything, absorbed everything, but then you have to accept that actually the writer of Lennon Naked, the thing guy who was a guy called, I hate Robert Jones. And you have to accept that this is Robert's take on John Lennon. So it's kind of a piece of performance art, but it terrified me to play John Lennon. And that's why I did it. I try and do things that I think are impossible. It feels like the best approach. Do the things that frighten you most.
That's how you learn and grow.
Pardon?
That's how you learn and you grow by doing the things.
Yeah.
Thank you. Also, I hope you have watched the Beatles documentary on Disney Plus. It's so good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll go back over here. Please tell us your name and your question.
Hello, my name's Serenity. I'm hard of hearing and my speech might be a little muddled, but my question is, I really appreciated your work in the A Word with autism and Flesh and Blood with learning disabilities. As someone who's disabled myself, I'm wondering what draws you to those roles? And also, if you could work and learn with another type of disability in the future, is there one that you would like to learn more about and be more interested in learning?
Thank you, and thank you for mentioning Flesh and Blood, which is a personal favourite of mine. I think, coming from a working class background, blue collar as you call it in the States, I always felt that art, television, film comes under the umbrella of art, was about giving a voice to those that don't have a voice. So, people on the spectrum, people with learning disability, are obviously included in that. So, it was very natural for me to be drawn to projects like that. To me, that's what art is about. It's about hearing a perspective that we do not hear a lot, which is again why I love what's happened with Doctor Who. The response I've had to the A word is incredible. I mean, as great as the response to Doctor Who, strangely, because wherever I go, in any country, people stop me and say, I love the A word. My son, my daughter, my grandchild, my nephew, my niece, my best friend is on the spectrum. And what they love about the A word is that it does not present the whole thing as a negative. It's a huge positive to have somebody on the spectrum in your family, in your life. And Pete Bowker, who wrote it and said, this is not unusual, because it's not. Everybody in this room will know somebody on the spectrum and will have changed their entire perspective of life because of that individual. So again, it's about inclusiveness. So it was just natural for me. As to where I just want to keep telling those stories. And in Dodger, we have actors you will see in the new series with physical, mental disability. I hate even saying the word disability. I don't see it as a disability. I see it as a super ability. Anybody who's dealt with somebody on the spectrum or enacted with people who live with Down syndrome, as I've done, has just basically had their life enriched by them. So, to a guy who was born in 1964 and grew up in a racist and homophobic and misogynistic society, to see the changes is everything I dreamed of, really.
Thank you for your question. Now we'll go back over to this side. Please tell us your name and your question.
Hello, my name's Terry. I'm from Mount Lake Terrace. It's a suburb of Seattle. My question is, obviously you're now part of a very rich legacy of doctors, and what did you do to try to grab hold of this role and make it your role?
Well, I asked for the audition. I don't know how many actors have done that. How many is there now? 68?
At least.
How many?
There'll be 14 coming up with the next Doctor, yeah.
I don't know how many of the 14 actively pursued the role in the way that I did. I know that the most important thing about any television, any theatre, any film you make is the writer. And I knew that nailed on. People talk about me bringing back Doctor Who. It wasn't me, it was Russell T Davies. He is responsible for it. It's always about the writers. So I ensured that if I was going to play the Doctor, it was going to be brilliantly written. And apart from that, really, I mean, I based my performance on Russell, really. Russell is the super fan. Russell at the time wore a brown leather jacket. and Russell thinks at 100 miles an hour and speaks at 100 miles an hour. So I based it half on him and half on the child in me. And I suppose I did, addressing the question a little earlier, the observation, the PTSD, I think possibly they wanted me because I had kind of proven that I could be miserable. And if you want to dress it up, you'd say proven that I could bring a little bit of weight to the role. And it is important. Every actor who's done it has had to be able to do both. Spin on a dime. You've got to be in fear for your life or in fear for the planet, and then make a joke. So really, I trusted my writer. I always lean on the writer. You're nothing without your writer. Thank you. Thank you.
I really like that you asked for your audition too. I think that's such great advice for folks who are like trying to act or go to like, sometimes you have to take that step and help make it happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I entered the industry, I got myself an agent, and people often ask me, well, what does your agent do for you? Yeah, they can create opportunities, but I've always been somebody who thinks that my agent works for me rather than me work, because I pay them, you know. They're not paying me, I'm paying them. But I shaped my career as a young actor. I was like, I knew what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do, and I made sure. It's really, I did it with Damon Lindelof on The Leftovers. I read the novel of The Leftovers. There was this character in there called Matt Jameson, and when I heard they were writing the scripts, I got my agent to tell Damon Lindelof I wanted to be in it and I wanted to play Matt Jameson, and he said, well, Matt Jameson's not in we're not writing Matt Jameson into the series. And then I met Damon in London and told him why I thought Matt Jameson was in it, and I was in it. The point being that within the industry that we work in, or any industry, what sometimes works is when you say, this is what's in my heart, and this is what I want. They're so used to being approached by agents and all the bullshit that goes on. Sometimes you can cut through that by making a human appeal.
Woo! Thank you. I did not know that about The Leftovers, and that's incredible. We're going to go over here on our left. Please tell us your name and your question.
Hi, my name's Cosette, and I'm from Arlington, Washington, and my question is what was your favorite episode of film of Doctor Who?
My favorite episode? Well, the best one I've ever seen is The Unearthly Child, the first ever episode, which is in black and white, and was broadcast in 1963. And there's something about the black and white and the brilliance of those two performances. The doctor and the young woman who plays the first assistant. And they're very equal at the time. There was none of them running around in bikinis that kind of started to happen. And the fact that you're seeing the TARDIS for the first time, and it's in a junkyard, I love that. It's a brilliant piece of television if you can ever find it. I think my own favourite episode, they were all really good because they were brilliantly written. Dalek comes to mind. And Dalek comes to mind because I was able to show a very unpleasant side of the Doctor, a bully. And I thought that was, often we bully when we're terrified, and the Doctor's terrified of the Daleks, so he bullies it. I thought it was interesting. I think that helped us establish that the show was not just knockabout and bad special effects. That helped us. But I think the Doctor dances was pretty, you know, are you my mummy? All that stuff. Yeah. So those two, probably. Those two are probably my favourites. But it's hard because we put our heart and souls into all 13. And then you've got things like Boomtown, and I got to do these two-handers with Annette Badland as one of the jet lag kicked in again. Help me. The Slitheen. So I love them all.
Thank you for your question.
You're welcome.
I agree, all of your episodes, but they're all my favorites. I couldn't pick one.
Thank you.
Over here on our right, hello doctor, what is your name and question?
Hello. Well, my name actually is Lucian. I am from Everett, just north of here. And my question is, although I'm dressed up in Doctor Who garb and wearing a Doctor Who panel, I'm very curious how you got into Marvel, because you were in the Marvel movie now, and I'm really curious how that happened, you know?
I think somebody turned it down. Benedict Cumberbatch turned it down. He said that in the press recently. Thanks, Benedict. I was cheaper.
No.
Yes, yes.
Thank you for your question.
And did you at least have fun?
No.
Also, really,
I wish Benedict would have done it. I was in makeup for 6 hours every day. And then nobody knew I was in it anyway. I couldn't speak. I couldn't act. Yeah. Sorry. Marvel don't do great with their villains, do they? Come on, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I loved working with your man now, with Thor, Chris. He was great fun.
Yeah.
And I got to act with Anthony Hopkins, who's my all-time hero.
Oh, yes. One of my top two.
And Alan Taylor, who directed it, is a great fella and a great director. Did lots of the original Game of Thrones, Alan Taylor. He's a great director. But we were, you know, the script was not great. And I think everybody knows that. It's not the strongest. It's not the strongest of the Thor films, it's not. And you don't want me to come here and show this, do you? Do you? I'm the 9th Doctor, I don't do that.
Thank you. You were also my first Doctor, so love you leaving.
Well, don't come as Tennant ever again.
That was a bold statement.
Don't come to me later on and say you were my first Doctor, say you were my favourite Doctor. I don't mean that.
We expect a leather jacket next time, is all I'm saying. Let's go back over here on our left. What's your name and question?
Hi, I'm Marlena. First off, I want to say thank you so much for being here. We all appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
My question is, what was your favorite alien creature that you encountered during your seasons?
Those kids were terrifying. I think it's really interesting within the show that you just put. Actually, I'm looking at you with a mask now, and I'm thinking, you know, the gas masks, and then COVID. It's interesting, isn't it? An interesting parallel. What happened to us during COVID? Suddenly, we were not getting the same visual signals, were we, from each other in stores and shops and things, and it was terrifying. And that's what the gas masks did to those children. They were children, basically. You stick that gas mask on. I think it's always got to be the Dalek, though. You know, I remember myself and Billy Piper were late for the read-through of the Dalek episode because we were shooting and we went over. So when we got into the room, everybody was sat round and we just had to run in, sit down and start reading. So we didn't realise what had been set up. And Nicholas Briggs, unknown to me, was hidden somewhere with the voice thing and said, "Exterminate!" And me and Billy jumped out of our seats because we'd been children too. And everybody in the room loved that reaction. It's so iconic, isn't it? But what's great about the Aliens is you get wonderful opportunities for actors. So Annette Badland, who played the Slitheen, who's played it a number of times, she's one of the most respected actors in the UK. And to do two-handers with her was great. It was great.
Thank you. And I just want to say, I know a lot of you raised your hands when I asked if watching The Ninth Doctor was your first time watching Doctor Who. And if, like me, I was an adult, and I've heard about the Daleks, but I didn't know Doctor Who, and I watched it, and the first appearance, I'm like, I don't know, is this really scary? They are, and especially in that episode.
Yeah, I mean, the Dalek, as I understand it, was created by, please correct me if I'm wrong, Terry Nation?
No, it's correct.
Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
And it was a metaphor or an embodiment of Nazi Germany and the inhumanity of individuals who believed in all that. That's, so I think in '63 when the whole thing started, it really resonated and still does. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll go over here on our right. Please tell us your name and question.
Hello, I'm Ace. I'm from Bellevue, and my question is, from all 13 episodes from Your Doctor, were there any behind the scenes that you really enjoyed shooting?
Yeah, I think it was my very first day, and I had to, Jimmy, I'm sorry, I forget Jimmy's second name. Jimmy, who's a Glaswegian, played a pig dressed in a spacesuit. And I had to chase him down a corridor, and I thought, I'm not playing Hamlet anymore. That is my fondest memory.
Thank you. Thank you. I will go now left with your name and question.
Hello, my name is Kyle. I'm born and raised Washington.
Hey, Kyle.
My question for you is, what was your favorite moment as the Doctor, either on screen or off screen?
I think I'm having them now, really. It's what I said to you earlier is just walking down the street and meeting adults who were children and seeing how much it meant. At the time, there was a lot of negativity around what went on, and I wasn't able to enjoy it and embrace it because of the way it was spun by the BBC and the lies that were told. But now I really enjoy it. The conventions, I didn't come to conventions for 15 years for various reasons, and I really enjoy them. I enjoy meeting you all. I resisted it because, to a certain extent, when you do a theatre show, people will come to the stage door for an autograph, and often it's because they want to sell it. But when I meet everybody here, you want to keep it, and you want to say something personal to me. So the conventions have driven home the love that people have for it. And also I'm an older man, I've had children, and I've seen how my children watch certain TV shows, and to see that in adults, see them drop all the guys, and see the innocence again, and realise that till the day I die, I'll be part of that is great. Well, we're glad to have you. Thank you.
And that is, one of the beautiful things when we all come together at fan conventions. We're all here because of our love for a character, an actor, a franchise, and so to hear that, I think it's appreciated and noticed is always nice. Thank you. Over here on our right, what's your name and question?
Hi, my name is Johnson. I come from Bellingham, Washington, and I'm currently studying to become a high school theater teacher. So I just want to know, what's your go-to monologue, and could we possibly have a little performance possible?
What are you on the spot? That's a good question.
I was obsessed with Macbeth. The whole reason I wanted to become an actor was because I did a production of Macbeth when I was 17. I played Macduff, and it was the first time. Shakespeare is very intimidating, the language, to a working class kid, as I was. But every night I would sit and listen to the actor Ayub Khan Din, who grew up to write a great British film called East is East, about a chip shop in Salford that bizarrely my mum and dad used to go to. How about that for time travel? And Ayub was great, and I'd listen to his performance, and it was the first time I thought, well, my dad could be Macbeth, because Macbeth is a working class guy, he's a soldier. And then I thought, oh, well, there is something from my background. So it would be, I played Macbeth actually a couple of years ago. And there's a speech he gives, oh God, I'm so sorry, it's jet lag, but there's a speech he gives. It's not the dagger speech. It's not, is this a dagger I see before me? It's the one where he goes, now o'er the one-half world nature seems dead, and wicked dreams abuse the curtain's sleep. Witchcraft celebrates pale Hecate's offerings, and withered murder. Oh, that's it. It's that speech. Now, the one-half world nature seems dead. Yeah, the writing's just unbelievable. And the mistake I made was I was acting too much. And I've just been reading a book on the plane coming over where it says, if you just learn the lines and inhabit the language will do the work for you. And I didn't understand it. I thought I had to show I understand the psychology of the character. Look at how clever I am. I'd love to go back to that role and just do it without all the acting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hi, over here on our left. What's your name and your question?
I am Chelsea. I'm actually named after the town in England. My mom is a Scouser.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, I'm from Salford and I'm a Manchester United fan, so you just mentioned two things. Chelsea, Scousers, Liverpool. This better be a good question.
I know. So, I am actually a big fan of your book. I read it cover to cover. So I want to know the process in that. How difficult was it to write and put all of your stuff out there for everyone to read?
Yes, I wrote this book. People might not know about it. It didn't sell that many copies. It's okay.
I read it and I told everybody about it.
Well, thank you. Called I Love the Bones of You, which came from an article I wrote about my experience of my beautiful dad's dementia. And I was approached to do a book, and I ended up talking about my relationship with my dad, about masculinity, about his dementia. And then I wrote about my own mental health issues around it's interesting that I find it hard to say, around anorexia and body dysmorphia. I wrote about that, and I also wrote about a severe clinical depression I experienced in 2016 as a result of my divorce and being separated from my beautiful children. And I'm very glad I did it, because if you suffer from any of those things, if you have a breakdown, if you have an eating disorder, the worst thing about it is the shame, actually. It's one thing suffering, but it's especially if you're supposed to, you're from a working class background, you're male, you're not supposed to be vulnerable. So it was great, actually, to get the burden of shame. I'm not ashamed of any of those things that I went through anymore. So that's good. And it wasn't really the thing at the time for men to talk about that sort of thing. So, but I did find publicising it very difficult. I went out and dutifully talked about all those things. I mean, I remember being on a British show, a chat show, and I talked about anorexia, and they went, right, thanks, Chris. Now, how do you feel about urban foxes? So, and looking back, I think it brought up a few things, publicising it, but I've got a bit distance. I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad, and I have been approached by people in the street who said thanks for doing it, so it's worthwhile.
Yeah, it's a very lovely book.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Now we'll go over here on the right. What's your name and question, please?
Hi, my name is Scout, and I'm from Vancouver. Earlier you said something about Russell T Davies and his leather jacket, but other than that, what did you contribute to your costume, like some of the other doctors did, like Tennant with his Gap pants and etc.?
Well, I don't know how much input David had on his costume, but Russell wrote in that I think, by the time the show was, the show was on too long, and it lost credibility. I think what Russell wanted to do was stress that this was a very contemporary take on Doctor Who, so he casually mentioned the leather jacket. Because I'm so faithful to writers, I said, right, we need a leather jacket. And then after that, I didn't really want it to be about the costume. I didn't want to appear zany. I wanted it to be practical, so the Timberland boots were actually what I wore to get around, and they were practical, and I knew there was going to be a lot of physical stuff, and that was it, really. Doctor Who is not about the costumes. It's a nice element, but it's got to be about the heart and the brain. And if, the zaniness, we had to leave it behind. Maybe it's coming back in now, I don't know. But that was my contribution.
Thank you.
I'm sure many cosplayers appreciate that it was a practical costume. Over here on the left, what's your name and question?
Yes, my name is Thomas. I'm here from Seattle. PBS was how we saw Doctor Who here in America. My last doctor was Tom Baker, and then you came along and we were able to watch you. So my stepchildren, you were their first doctor, and really appreciate that. My question deals with, you've mentioned in the past some of the difficulties and the reason why you left Doctor Who early.
Yeah.
You were an excellent doctor, leaving us wanting so much more. And so, can you compare your experience there with Heroes? So they're in kind of the same time period of filming, and Your experience between the two, was it better with Heroes than it was with Doctor Who?
No, I mean, I had much more to do as the Doctor. And I've got an enormous ego. And I like leading things. I was peripheral as Claude. And they did ask me to go back, but I said, well, what's the storyline? And it didn't appeal. They weren't giving me enough to do. So I didn't go back. But I enjoyed it, you know. At the time there was a real bad feeling about me in the UK, in the industry. I was seen as a pariah. And my agent at the time said, you're gonna have to get out of town. So I came to America, and thank you, America, it gave me work. I mean, it's completely unjust, but I was on a blacklist. I was put on a blacklist. So I came to the States, and the first job I got was Heroes, and I was very grateful for it. And I loved playing that character. There was a time though in the first costume fitting where they were trying to make me wear a scarf to reference Doctor Who. And I said, no. You know, these were grown men and they were fanboys. I said, I'm not gonna, this is a completely different character. And I'm a good enough actor to not have to reference that. I can't stand all that stuff, you know. And Claude worked in his own way. So, that was me being pig-headed again.
Thank you for your question. I like being stubborn. Pays off.
Yeah.
Pays off.
Oh, it doesn't.
Over here on the right, please tell us your name and question.
Hi, in character, my name is Bill. I'm from the fictional town of Gravity Falls. I'm Luna. I'm from Everett. And yeah, sorry, I'm really nervous. As you were mentioning, the mental health thing, it is related. Like, I have PTSD, anxiety, all that stuff. But I just wanted, like, my first comment, I just wanted to say, as many of the people here who grew up watching Doctor Who, when I got into Doctor Who, I was going through a really rough time with, like, my mental health. I was depressed. Yeah, a lot of, sorry, I'm trying not to cry.
That's okay.
You basically, you saved my life. I just wanted to say that.
Actually, you saved your life. You saved your life. Which, that's what should be applauded. You saved your life.
Really a lot to me. Just the quirkiness and just your energy and how you played the Doctor was like, just kind of like my life, and I was like, I just love them. Thank you. So my question is, I know that you've been in like many other things like Dark World, and 28 Days Later. Great character, by the way. Hated it, but great character. If your Doctor, Ninth Doctor, were to meet any of the characters that you have portrayed, played, who do you think he would get along the most with?
Oh, I think he'd love John Lennon. I'd love to see that. Oh, where's your blue box, mate?
Probably.
Yeah, I think, John Lennon, that'd be great, wouldn't it? The Doctor and Lennon.
John Lennon.
Yeah. I'd go for John. I'll go for John. I think I'm trying to. Yeah, you kick Malekith's ass.
100%. Yeah. Again, thank you, and I just want to say, I don't think no one has said it yet, but I just want to say you are, of course, fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have time for 2 more questions. So we'll go
over here to the left to the TARDIS, tell us your name and question.
Hi, my name is Marco. I'm from Seattle. And you are my second favorite Doctor because like the rest of the world, I'm slightly in love with Jodie Whittaker. Anyway, my question is, I myself have autism and ADHD, and Doctor Who has always been like a really important thing for me because there's just something about seeing like a really talkative, like weirdo being celebrated in that way that really just makes me like myself more. And especially the Ninth Doctor, I think. So my question is, what is your like favorite, like weird quirk that the Doctor has that was like just fun to play or that you just personally like?
Well, I think it's the fact that he's an outsider. When I got the role of the Doctor, I started to understand that a huge part of his fan base was gay men and women and people on the spectrum. And that had been going on since 1963. And that was very surprising to me, but then I stepped back and looked at it and I thought, oh, okay, he's an outsider. He loves these human beings, but he's not one of them. And they don't accept him, and they refer to him as an alien, and they often refer to anything different from them as an alien. So I think it was, and to a certain extent, I always felt like an outsider in my background. I don't know why. Maybe, perhaps we all do. So I think it was his otherness that, if that can be called a quirk. But really, the defining thing that probably all the people who play the Doctor will say is his love. He has two hearts. He's got a lot of love to give. And it was playing that and playing his desire to be inclusive. It was that, it's the love in the character that I think we're all in the room for in the end. We love the sci-fi, we love all that, but he's so positive. Positivity is
Thank you. Okay, and one last question over here on the right.
Oh my god, here we go. I'm Lucy, and fun fact is that your very first episode aired 2.5 weeks before I was born.
Thanks for that.
What I love about Doctor Who in all that time is that it's remained completely timeless. You know, no pun intended. But I'm wondering what for you, like in these almost 18 years, has been the most timeless and magical, and what is it that you hope never dies?
Oh. Well, the most timeless and magical thing that's happened to me is having my children, Albert and Esme. That has completely and utterly changed my life in a very interesting way, because they're 10 and 11, and it's reminded me completely of my childhood. I've been able to revisit my childhood by watching them play, and how easily they'll just believe whatever they're playing is real, you know. And just recently, I tried to show them Doctor Who, my episodes of Doctor Who a couple of years ago, and they were too scared. But now Albert's into it, and he says things like, "I didn't realise your hair was black, Dad." Isn't that so great? I think that when they first started to watch it, it was too frightening, but also because their dad was the one that was in danger. That added another layer, but now they don't care about their dad.
Bring on the danger.
So I think, no, I mean, my children was the big thing, and my mum, watching my mum age, she's 90, with so much grace and positivity and independence. Losing my dad, watching my dad's deterioration to dementia was very, very hard and humbling, and a note to self about how precious life is. So much has gone on in the period since I finished it, and actually my dad was poorly while I was. One of the reasons I'm so wound up when I attacked the Dalek is I'd left the hospital where my dad had been struggling, and I went back to the set and took it out on the Dalek.
Thank you so much for your question. And thank you all for attending. Thank you all